for this joint reading. I think it's going to be a wonderful juxtaposition of poetics. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you, Farnoosh, for the addition, the flowery addition. So before we begin, a few announcements. Oh yeah, and this is a celebration of their manuscripts, so which are available for sale over there. So please grab a copy of both these books, Mother and Grand Cloud. Both are really incredible. So before we begin, some announcements of upcoming events at the Poetry Project. Next week, on Wednesday, we're celebrating the release of a book titled Love Joe, The Selected Letters of Joe Brainard. This will be here at the Parish Hall. Please join us. We'll have a lineup of intergenerational poets, poets who are also indebted to Joe Brainard. So please join us for that. And on Friday, the 11th, on Friday the 1st of November, we're having our annual Halloween party. And it's going to be, I think, a combination of drag shows and poetry. So again, if you're free, please come. Okay, I think I'll stop there for events. Logistics, there are 2 all-gender bathrooms, one on the first floor, an accessible bathroom on the ground floor. If you need to get there, just let me or anyone else on staff know. I'm looking at, there's a video on Farnoosh's computer, and they're like, yeah, someone's looking at me from that video. Welcome to the Poetry Project. Okay, a lot of props. So what else? Books, toilets, events, and now introductions, right? Okay. I always think I'm going to forget something. So I'm going to introduce Farnoosh, and Nicole is going to introduce MS RedCherries. I will first read Farnoosh's bio and then a short introduction. So Farnoosh Fathi is the author of Great Guns, editor of John Murray, Drafts, Fragments, and Poems, and founder of the Young Artists Language and Devotion Alliance, YALDA. She lives in New York and has taught at the Poetry Project, Poets House, Columbia University, and Stanford Online High School. Okay. So, when I reached out to Farnoosh, asking her if she'd like to comp anyone for this event, she responded, "Thank you so much, Miren. I'm so looming forward to tomorrow." As someone with a non-native relationship to English, I wondered with some degree of paranoia if looming forward implied that something ominous was about to happen. A forthcoming revelation Farnoosh's typo was warning me of and I should prepare for. Farnoosh's poetry makes me feel like an overused expression is suddenly about to swerve off course. Every line a syntactic assemblage, an estranging collage of unruly associations, working against common sense and the lethargic grounds enabling its deceptive distribution. Granny Cloud is so intensely singular, its own private thing, an object forged out of idiosyncratic references at the antipodes of everyday verbiage, its automated linguistic habits. I'm left with the feeling that the coordinates of the world in which the poems unfold only become legible on a high fever, an altered state of consciousness whereby estrangement gives way to joy, sometimes faith. We must not waste the will of God, Farnoosh writes. I'm willing to surrender to her world of troubadours, medieval holes, cream-filled epaulettes, tablecloth of water, letters sealed with a leech, images committed to a temporally ambiguous world, a pre-Renaissance perspective in which the real hasn't yet been confined to realism. I sometimes find myself looking for aboutness, a handle to latch onto in Farnoosh's psychic carousel, some solid ground from which to unlock the meaning of her world. But then Farnoosh reminds me, I must be a brave student. What do brave students do? They find their grounds. She writes, I study the weave of her exuberant poetics in anyone's Don't Natel, where over 30 pages, Farnoosh shares the various iterations that resulted in the poem's Fontanelle. Everything has a logic. The surreal is only a surplus of meaning doubling down on essence, each line teeming with subterranean abundance, an infinite number of possibilities ultimately settling on what needs to be. Recursively, Farnoosh builds her own iconography. There's a lot of baldness in this collection. Bald like dolls, kings and queens. Do you know how I get about the bald? I saw the bald double in us, the bill bald. The skin of Farnoosh's poem is exposed. Everything is felt twice, like a double chin, two jaws, or two faces. In his biography of St. Francis, a figure lurking behind Farnoosh's collection, G.K. Chesterton writes that the saint saw himself as an object, very small and distinct, like a fly walking on a clear window pane, and it was unmistakably a fool. And as he stared at the word fool written in luminous letters before him, the word itself began to shine and change. Every word in Farnoosh's collection shines and changes with divine foolishness. A jongleuse's upended world where joy isn't sadness turned upside down, where we can grieve with both laughing gulls and mourning doves. This imagination, Farnoosh writes, is present tense literature. Please join me in welcoming Farnoosh Fathi.
Can we turn on okay, sorry, the screen, yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll tell you in a second. Okay, but you can turn it on, Noah, if you don't mind. Is that possible? Yeah. Okay, but take your time. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Farnoosh. Thank you to the volunteers, to Abigail and Nick of NYRB. Thank you to Nicole, Marin, and Anna, and what's it again? Lex, and a number of other people. Will, who I just met. Thank you all so much. It's so nice to be at the Poetry Project, and thank you all for coming to celebrate this book. And MS RedCherries, where are you? Oh, there you are. I'm really looking forward to your reading as well, and congratulations. So actually, Marin pointed us exactly to where I was going, and that is the opening of the book. Has an epigraph from G.K. Chesterton, who wrote some amazing, like hundreds of books, but among them the Father Brown Detective Series and biographies of various saints, and one of them, St. Francis. In it, he says, he's sort of like speculating as to how St. Francis came to be St. Francis. Oh, there we go. And do we need to turn off lights in order to see better, or? Yeah, we might need to dim lights, which will be interesting for bingo. And so how he came to be St. Francis, which is also to say how he became a juggler of God, which is how he called himself and his friends, his disciples. And he says that one theory is that St. Francis was going through his own sort of crisis of trying to figure out, was he a poet? Was he, a troubadour, which was sort of like poet of that time, or which he was. He wrote poems and started that way, and kind of a traveling minstrel. That felt right on one hand, and then he went to war or battle, and definitely sort of felt like that didn't work out, and just a sort of feeling like a disappointment, and that he wanted to do some sort of spiritual practice, but that it didn't quite sit in the world of poet, nor in like a conventional kind of studious monk with a center and a place and solemnity, and that there was the sort of well-circulated medieval French parable or fable of the lady, the tumbler of Our Lady, of Notre Dame, of the also called in other ways juggler of or clown of God, wherein a dispirited court tumbler who sort of is like lamenting that he just has this little tumbling routine, and he performs it everywhere and sort of like in court and kind of looks around, and everyone seems to have more illustrious ways of expressing their devotion or their purpose or meaning. And so he goes into a cave and he takes with him a portrait of the Virgin Mary, and he just does his jig, his tumbling routine in that cave every day in the dark for the Virgin Mary. And after many days, the Virgin Mary like comes out of the painting and sort of like restores his faith. And it says that like when he was doing his jig in that moment, his feet were moving joyfully, but his eyes were weeping. And so I think G.K. Chesterton says, like, having told you that, he says, if we apply this parable of Our Lady's tumbler to the case, we shall come very near to the point of it. Now, it really is a fact that any scene, such as a landscape, can sometimes be more clearly and freshly seen if it is seen upside down. There have been landscape painters who adopted the most startling and pantomimic postures in order to look at it for a moment in that fashion. Thus, that inverted vision, so much more bright and quaint and arresting, does bear a certain resemblance to the world which a mystic like St. Francis sees every day. But herein is the essential part of the parable. Our Lady's tumbler did not stand on his head in order to see the flowers and the trees as a clearer or quainter or brighter vision. He did not do so, and it would never have occurred to him to do so. Our Lady's tumbler stood on his head to please Our Lady. So when I read that biography, 12 years ago, and then over the course of these 10 or 12 years of writing this book, there was kind of this question looming of, what would it mean, to stand on my head? What is all this inverting and contorting that I'm doing for? What does it mean to do it for kind of a renewed vision? And what does it mean to do it as an expression of devotion or faith? And so anyway, part of the sort of thing I'm interested in as we play bingo with the ants is to kind of invite you to think for yourselves, for what do you kind of invert yourself, or try to see a new perspective, or contort yourself. And so these are my aunts-in-law, Aunt Joanna and Aunt Anna. Aunt Anna, Aunt Joanna, can you hear me? All right, let's testing volume. All muted, okay. Okay, unmute. How do I unmute this? Let's see. Oh, it looks like, trying to unmute you, Ants, but it's not letting me. Oh, there we go. Hello. Go ahead. Can you say something? Can you?
Okay. Yeah, Farnoosh, is this too loud? Hi!
Is that okay? Volume? That's okay? Okay. And Anna and Joanne, I don't know if you could hear me, but I was just talking about the juggler of Notre Dame, and I was wondering if you had mentioned last night when I told you about tonight that there was a version of it that you were aware of. Okay. What's the version? Did you want to say? Okay. All right. Okay, back to me. Okay, so we're gonna.
Over here.
Go ahead.
We'll just here.
Okay, go ahead, Annie. Now I can hear you. Did you want to say something? Oh. No one else is in the meeting? Oh. They accidentally, they'll come back. Okay, so what you have have before you our bingo cards that Tasso made. I'm muted? Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're going to get...
All right, we're gonna get...
Yeah. I don't know how to... Okay. We're going to get started. And 1 second. Yeah, go ahead, Miranda. We're going to play some bingo, and if you don't have a card and you want one, just raise your hand, and someone will bring you one and a pencil. And I'm just going to read for like 15 minutes or so from this poem called Anyone's Dantonelle, which Marin referenced. It is just a bunch of the drafts as I was writing the poem that became Fontanelle, and part of how this tumbler of Our Lady cave thing came in was just I don't know, I really did not have the ability to kind of look at my writing in progress and see sort of what was there. Couldn't really look at my life and see what was already there, and that's part of what this kind of process of this book was about. The poet Bridget Bikini Kelly told me something about how, like, wouldn't it be interesting if all these bloopers, these things that you're thinking are like kind of failed or not quite it, like what if you just kept that whole record and included it and made a book of those failures or whatever, because she found them interesting, which I thought was just like her being generous, and it seemed like, why would I want to parade all my failures? And then over the course of like 10 years of, and this kind of Tumblr in the cave feeling, I was like, oh, I did learn how to see what was interesting in the blooper reel. So, okay, we're gonna, the ants are gonna host, and I'll just start reading, and I'll be walking around. When you hear a word, if you get 5 in a row, then you can either take over the reading, or we can talk about a prize. Okay, I'll start reading, and then ants, you can just interrupt when you're ready, okay? Can you turn on your volume? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Farnoosh, can you hear us? Farnoosh,
Yes,
can you hear us okay?
I can.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. All right. I must return to the Fontanelle. This photo off the top of his head occurs. Now you have to wait till the ants call out the word, not me, okay? Yeah, sorry. This photo off the top of his head occurs.
You can't hear her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is courtesy of him bantering in the house next to which I live that he dies, and I want to do this. The peas shoop in a wet valley, a valley like the gull with a pea eye, and white stitches, eyes that gull and turn and roll in a bow. And bowing, you can tell, wad the pall and gull at the stand, spearheaded among flies. Yeah, go ahead. Let's get started. Go ahead.
This is what we actually will be using. It's a bingo thing. The only thing is you may not hear it rolling because the balls drop down and then I get backlogged. So anyway, but I'm Anna, or AA, and it's the first number. Wait a minute. For me, are we supposed to say the number 8 in here? Number, they need the word. Should stand for it or the word. Roll it. Okay. Jonah, do you know how bingo got started? Oh, Fontanelli, Fontanelli. I think that's kind of an Italian cheese. And that's the bingo start.
Okay. Okay, I'll read some more. Fontanelle?
Fontanelle, yeah, that was it. We've already done that one. Keep that, Farnoosh. Okay.
Okay, I'll read some. At the crotch, and from her to him, then a dripping bow, then a flavor, then a chin. Then the clouds that tray, the nose passes up all in favor of a few doves.
You can do this to, if you have like a saggy chin, you can do these exercises. Try to help them improve. Okay.
I must return to the fontanelle. This photo off the top of his head occurs. It is courtesy of him bantering in the house next to which I live.
I've got bangles on.
Next to which I live that he dies, and I want to do this.
You can also
Peas shoop in a wet valley, a valley like the gull with a pea eye, and white stitches, eyes that gull and turn and roll into a bow, and bowing somebody get bingo. And white stitches wad the pall and gull at the stand. I'm just gonna mute the ants. I'm just gonna mute the ants for a second because they'll just keep going. Well, let me see. Okay. No, just for a second, ants. Just for a second. 1 sec. Okay. All right. Okay. A valley like the gull with a pea eye, and white stitches, eyes that gull and turn and roll into a bow. And bowing, you can tell, wad the pall, and gull at the stand, spearheaded among flies. Stand, stay, and grant the fontanelle, my stomping ground, the stomping ground of all students. Am I editing or am I writing? A question. I see the spiders carousel the pen. When spiders carousel the pen begins to descend, like a purple drill or a curl coming, teeth flickering like fireworks or smiles, at the crotch, and from her to him, then the dripping bow, then a flavor, then a chin, then the clouds that tray, the nose passes up all in favor of a few doves. Yeah, if you find the word, you can cross it off. Let's do that. Yeah. Sure, yeah, let's change it. You got bingo? You got bingo? Come on up. Hey. Thank you. Okay. You can just take over and until the next hints are here.
Right here. And then go up to here.
Yeah, until the next winner. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But let's see. Let's let the ants also just have a little moment here. So, okay. All right.
Hey guys.
Oh yeah, she's a geologist. She's got geology. Okay, sorry, ants. I don't know how to do. You go ahead.
Okay. I must return to the fontanelle. This photo off the top of his head occurs. It is courtesy of him bantering in the house next to which I live, that he dies, and I want to do this. The peas shoot in a wet valley. A valley like the gull with a pea eye.
Now, entering is like when you're talking, don't have to explain. Okay. I didn't know if I'm moving words or not, so what I was just asking how old he was. Do you have a great uncle that's not married
And
by any
white
chance?
blow dryer stitches.
Right.
Eyes that gull and turn and roll into a bow. Now when bowing you can tell, wad the pal and gal at the stand spearheaded among flies. Stand and grant the fontanelle, my stomping ground.
35. Tree hugging. You want to go out and hug.
Tree hugging.
Yeah, tree huggers. Tree hugging. Tree hugging.
The stomping ground of all students. Am I editing or am I writing? I see the spiders carousel the pen, and from her to him, at the crotch, and from her to him, and from her to him the pen, writing, handshake, and exchange between the brows, then the dripping bow, a flavor, then a chin.
33. Roses have she is a thorn in my side.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's a what? Finger? Come on over.
Thank you.
Don't laugh.
From Sakine.
Okay.
Sakine?
Sakine.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Sakine. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Dante, thank you.
Where do we start?
Anywhere you pick up maybe over here somewhere?
Okay,
Third draft. Third draft. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Dante.
Hello, hi ants.
Is that like Dante's Peak?
Exactly. Like, okay. I
Okay.
should start. I must return to the fontanelle. This photo off the top of his head occurs. It is courtesy of him bantering in the house next to which I live that he dies, and I want to do this.
House. See?
The
No,
peas
be
shoot
true.
in a wet valley, a valley like the goal with a PI.
And he does stop it.
Here
Can
you
you
must
see?
bow,
Stop. He's a
eyes that will gull and turn
Okay.
and roll into a bow. Now when bowing you can just tell, Wad the pal and Gall at the stand spearheaded among flies. Stand, stay, and grant the fontanelle, my stomping ground, the stomping ground of all students. Are we editing or writing? I see the spider's carousel the pen, and what from her to him, and at the crotch dripping? From her to him the pen, hands shake, in exchange between the brows, then the dripping bow, then the valley diving, dripping with its white stitched eyes, gulled closed, a flavor than a chin, then the nose that passes all up in favor of a few doves, then the clouds that tray, what do they bring? The pen, editing and writing, no, spiders, and the whole earth below them. Spiders carousel and maypole the pen begins to descend like a purple drill or a curl coming to earth with teeth flickering off it as it deepens. Bingo!
On my brain. No, do you know what a polyp is? It's not what you're thinking when you go do a colonoscopy. A polyp is like a bryozoan. These were fossils. Have they muted us again?
Hello.
No,
I must return to the fontanelle. This photo off the top of his head occurs. It is courtesy of him bantering in the house next to which I live that he dies, and I want to do this. Now, when bowing, you can just tell Wad the Paul and Gall at your stand, spearheaded among flies. Two peas shoop in a wed valley, a valley like the gull with a PI, eyes that will gull and turn and roll back into a bow. And what is it that brave students do? Don't they write about now or about anything at all? Are we editing?
Okay, my 25 is spearheaded. She's spearheaded.
I think we might, it might be time, right? To switch. No, come. What's your name? Charles? No, Charles. Charles.
Let me show you sharks too. See, okay, see, you can speak.
Read just for a minute.
That used to use sharks' teeth for
And what
speakers.
is it that brave students do? Don't they write about now or about anything at all? Are we editing or writing? And what from her to him? And at the crotch, that man dripping with the head start? And so on, and from her to him the pen. Doing handstands, balls juggling gold before the teacher.
That's what we are
Wad
in
the
the
Paul,
family.
Gall at the stand, spearheaded among flies. Stand, stay, and grant the fontanelle, my stomping ground, the stomping ground of all students. Here you must bow. Hands shake, an exchange between the brows. Balls of demons and words slide down their wrist like bangles. Then the deep bow long before they've finished. I must not waste the will of God. They cry midway like brave students. How now the pen? Now the valley is diving, dripping nothing of its white stitched eyes, closed with full intent. Dovetails from a memory palace open, the dew in its holding in its hand of mystery. The palms, the jongleurs, her sweaty balls, each head vaunted in its O.
Thank you so much. Is there more bingo? Oh, yes. Multiple bingos? Jongleurs? Yeah, come on up. Let's finish, wrap up together. You too, Miranda? Yeah, come on together. Let's do it together, okay? All right, let's do, yeah. Here, you're in the middle. You can hold this. Okay. All right, let's see, should we do, okay, how about let's read this note to self, this critical note.
Okay,
I can see what's
happening here. I'm trying to cut
What do you do
without
then?
writing things anew, and I'm getting stuck. I've left the imagination. This is where I need to relax, let go, and keep creating.
Okay. All right. All right. How about let's read this. Let's repeat it.
I must not waste the will of God.
They cry.
Midway, like brave students. How now, the pen? She won't touch it until she has walked on her hands before the portrait of, from her to him.
Okay. And then let me just run to the end. Here we go. Let's see. Sorry. Stay with me. Yeah. Are we quiet or are we crying? And the man with the head start and the crotch dripping, and what from her to him? She is rising or undressing. Behind a cloud, her scarf too undresses, pink and white stitched with two eyes. Peas, and at the edge, I think, what is called Shoop Wed Valley Circa, cannot teach. One student begins this portrait. She draws a cat eye for herself, and another draws a tear, and junk indicating some darkness dialed hours ago. And for another is drawn hands behind the back, tied with mourning doves. They are, so to speak, resting there, balancing for all time, and mourning what flight has done to them. Behind their backs, what clouds have written, farted, and other nasty things in their gorgeous font. Her head now drops to the floor and her feet to the air, and until she has walked on her hands before her walls, the bird, the cloud, portraits hung on every side, then mine, she says, will begin. My face will begin its dripping. My feet will implore the air with joy, with clouds that tray, empty, their chins in flames. And her eyes begin dripping, the paint of our still fresh portraits turned upside down, and her feet implore us of their joy. Thank you.
In 34. John, Dinosaur has to say goodbye. Hold on. And this is, oh, my,
Bye, Hans.
Quick scene change. Thank you so much, Farnoosh, and to your aunties, and for all of the bingo readers. Thank you. Yeah, it's so nice to have you here. Congrats on your book. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, again, for coming to the Poetry Project tonight. It's unseasonably warm, and there's lots going on, but it's nice to be in this full room with you all. My name is Nicole, and I'm the interim executive director at the Poetry Project, and I'm really excited tonight to be introducing MS RedCherries. Also, there's we share the space with the church in a dance class, and there's like a really big church event happening tonight. So, you know, let that be our background, I suppose. All right. Okay. I'll wait. All right. MS RedCherries, my close friend. Yesterday, while returning to the city on an Amtrak, we texted about this introduction. A few ways I could introduce you tonight. Brief quips, some mischievous deviations from a proper introduction. I had just finished reading your new book, your first book, Mother. I was trying to find the words to be able to speak to what I was feeling, what was felt. Onajishin Niji, I texted, it's beautiful, my friend. And yet again, my own brevity was still an incomplete expression of mother, a collection of work that weaves across and through time, through dreams, stories told, memories real and memories gathered through fragment, fracture, resonating and mirroring forward into the shared and familiar. The voice of her sister, the nose of her brother, her father speaking softly, this listening, a deep listening, a question, questions, quote, how much higher, mother? High enough to see everything, MS writes, and farther hellos. The pieces of Mother, a series of poems, vignettes, letters, build upon one another to tell a larger story, a story of connection. MS's writing seeks to uncover, to bridge gaps, to question, can time itself be intermittent? The way a soft-edged rock has the ability to skip across the top of the water, graceful, breaking across the surface, traveling forward, segmented, to land at the depths, to connect back. In To Fall and Give, MS writes, my mother was born into a place crumbled by worlds. She stepped off an autumn ladder and down into the grass below, where she lay with her family. And later in the poem, quote, she lived generations in an open burial that illuminated generations. She's a microblip of chasm that erodes the universe. She said that we try to bury our histories and find our futures, the ones we want to forget but always remember, unquote. And while traveling on that southbound Amtrak, feeling the sway of the train car on the tracks above the rocky bed, carved along the Hudson, I watched the trees, deep in transition, fly past the window. In a seat facing northward, I was traveling backwards and forwards at once, and this felt right. This timing, a timing akin to the visceral pull forward and back that is traveling home throughout Mother. The hypnotic lull of movement of watching the yellow and red leaves waving from the trees, the sun setting over the river bluffs, a landscape shaped by time of cycles, a wholeness incomplete and yet always whole. In Farther Hellos, MS writes, and when I dream, I remember, and when I remember, I dream, wondering if it's real, and why does it have to be? And I leave it to MS for her to lead us through and to and through these questions, through the layers that is Mother. MS RedCherries received an MFA from the Iowa Writers Workshop and a JD from Arizona State University College of Law. She is a citizen of the Northern Cheyenne Nation and lives in Brooklyn. Her debut collection, Mother, which is a finalist for the 2024 National Book Award for Poetry, hell yeah, was released in July 2024 from Penguin Books. It's my great joy and honor to welcome my dear and close friend, MS RedCherries.
Hello. Thank you, Nicole, for that lovely introduction. Nicole is my close friend. I'm very proud of that. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Cool. Nicole is my close friend. I'm very proud of that. Ishpeva. That means it's good. Beautiful music. America, country eat country, an apocalypse in miniature. Redacted. And when the woman ran from her house to the front of the BIA building and was told that she could not see her daughter because her daughter was on her way to a residential school with the Dakotas, and that she would stay there because she was going to learn and stay with the people who took her from the woman's house and onto a bus waiting at the front of the BIA building. And when the woman tried to know where her daughter was, she was taken and put on a bus to a hospital in the Dakotas because she was told she had too much sadness, and that she would be healed from the sadness which had taken her from the house to the front of the BIA building and onto a waiting bus that would take her from the mountains into the flat plains, onto a gravel road, up to a big brick building with an American flag in front, where she would stay until her sadness went away. And when it didn't go away, her daughter, 40 years later, seeking to find her in her own sadness, found the woman's hospital records, which showed the woman being diagnosed with delusional melancholia. And when the woman died in her bed at 26, she was laid alongside another 120 patients, all of whom now lay buried between the 4th and 5th fairway of the Hiawatha Golf Club in Canton, South Dakota. My mother was born into a place crumbled between worlds. She stepped off an autumn ladder and into the grass below, where she lay beside her family. Living in a wooden house deep in the hills of Montana, she grew up during a bad but not the worst time, a bad and confusing time. White people wanted to be Indians, and Indians wanted to be left alone. The American Indian movement was forming, and all Indians sought return in some way or another to their traditional ways. Many served in Vietnam, like my uncle, proud and brave, what the Americans like to call Indians, but true nevertheless. My mother was the proudest and bravest Indian I knew, standing so tall the clouds looked at her from both sides. Born in an unkind century, my mother was remarkably Indian. She had black hair, dark skin, and could speak our language. She lived generations in an open burial that illuminated generations. She is a micro-blick of chasm that erodes the universe. She said that we try to bear our histories and find our futures, the ones we want to forget but always remember. She pointed to a hawk in the sky, but it turned out to be a plastic bag. She was always a slippery marbled edge memory on its face, but when she spoke, I listened. In the mornings, my mother would tell me stories, both dead and alive. The mustering and withering of her voice, booming and inviting, would set me to sleep, or I'd close my eyes but still be awake. In the great drinking days that served as the eternal fountain, things took shape and hold of us, my mother would say, and I knew that. Constant stream aching, the side of mirror veiled, left wondering right above the side gaze grazing, the shiny wrought written, holiday steady, before weaving and norm, wild garden reeds, glaring at the crossed eyes melt, on Riverside left barking hungry. Are you hungry? I would say yes because it was rude to say no. She would make me Spam and eggs and sometimes potatoes, using the same iron skillet to make everything. I bet you've never had Spam before. I told her no. It was bacon or bust, and we laughed. Man, we always laughed. And she would always boil coffee. She'd make cowboy coffee with cream, the American dream, cold half full, and Paramount shooting roads, sun-pelt dogs, holding small tired lanes, oh months, oh pennies, waiting for Pop's pop to show shoes of feet, sowing concealed snow, teal banks hopping, define hope, define hoping, corral straits, till dire, 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 good, good, good. My father noticed my distrust of the landscape as I saw it through his life. America never looked for us at all, but I'm better with you, I told my father. I don't know if he heard me. One lit candle after another on a table in a 2-bedroom house with a muddy driveway. 50 years ago, his own mother sitting in a rocking chair near the stove, watching him play outside from the window. Corn and potatoes for dinner. His mother scratches her hand until it bleeds and asks the Catholic priest for forgiveness. Forgiveness from who? And at 30, she dies from diabetes. No concrete bedder, no marble statue erected in anyone's honor except at the Catholic Church, a saint. When I saw my father's cedar coffin laying at the front of the church beneath the priest's hand, it made me feel small and raging, but at who? Cheyenne songs en masse and Catholic prayers, ideas that don't work out in the long run, in a church that was built to resemble a teepee, burning cedar near a cedar box. I look at my feet, black heels and a black dress, I am wearing black, in a Catholic church attending my father's funeral, walking out to the burial site. It's cold outside, and the ground is so frozen my heels do not sink into the clay. Father, is it too late to tell you when Mother called me every Christmas and every birthday? Did you know that I wished for you? And the last time you called me, you said it was so cold that your chest hurt, and it was this cold. Every now and again, you examine the ground before you very jerkily because you are not on a racing horse, but behind the wheel of a Chevy Malibu on a dirt road on the reservation. You are leaning with the wind because you want your hair to cover your eyes so you could pretend you were on a racing horse. You are instantly alert because your brother who is driving could hit a racing horse who may be crossing the road before you. You are not wearing any spurs. You do not need any reins. The racing horse will take you to a place where the land that once was gone is now back, and your horse's neck and head are actually yours. This one's called Hover There Gray. My older brother used to say he was 1,992 years old, and I told him that was just his birth year. I would tell him I was a 20th century orphan, always feeling that the rocking horse beneath me might turn to dust and to mud, and I would rise on real horseback, craving the taste of dead meat. But we were born in the sandwich generation, born with a steady anger about the world we've been given. We always needed each other, and we always had each other within ourselves. His die cast on fast times, and he lived fast times on this land since we've been since time immemorial. Brother, muted edge, who carries life of war, what is of ours, tiny tears in a totem, a march generation, turn the rocking horse to mud, the horse to meat. My brother, sister, and I never spent that much time together under the same roof of any building. We were always moving separately, but on the same plane, apart, but always affected by each other. Being with them, I would overhear stories populated by the characters of their lives and pretend I knew who they were talking about. Is your friend my friend? My sister asked my brother, because he was sitting next to me at the bar and asked me to buy him a Hot Pocket. So I gave him $5, but he folded it and used it to pick dirt from his fingernails. And then he got up to go outside, and I never saw him buy the Hot Pocket. My brother tells her, yeah, he does that. So I ordered a Diet Coke and really wished I had that $5 because that was the last money I had, and I wanted to spend it all playing Mom's favorite song on the jukebox. Diet Coke does that to me. It gets me feeling. It's probably the caffeine. I asked this white guy sitting next to me if he could slice me in two and take me out in separate parts. He just looked at me, and then I said I was your older sister, and then he got up and he walked away. He was probably the owner, my brother says. And so I kept ordering Diet Cokes because I'm not drinking right now, and the bartender wouldn't take my money, which is good because I didn't have any anyways. But I kept ordering them and watching the others play pool. It was the first of the month, so it was really busy, and I overheard a story of someone getting dragged from a car when her jacket got caught in the door, and then I remembered it was me. There was already snow on the ground, and my mother is running up the hill. She's carrying a baby on her back. I meet her, and she runs past me without saying a word. She is carrying a baby on her back, determined and fierce, and she's running past me. I watch her climbing the pine trees to make it all the way to the top. She drops the baby off at the top, and my mother keeps running. I do not hear the baby. I cannot see the baby. But when I see the blanket, I ask my brother, what is she doing? He tells me she went to the creek for water and came back with a baby. I let my thoughts go, and I watch the white blanket at the top, breezing in the wind. The white people came and shuffled around the crowd of Indians at the bottom of the hill, and I stand there watching, but I do not understand. I see smoke coming from behind the mountain is breaking, and the smoke is coming. The baby is crying, and my brother says, that is you. Looking at a black and white dog, I ask, aren't we all dogs? He looks back at me and says yes, or rather I say yes, and he doesn't say anything at all. Growing up without my brother and sister, I've been talking to dogs since I was quite young, and sometimes they talk back. I spent my younger days living alone and being alone, waiting for a life eclipse, waiting for a life eclipse, waiting for a life eclipse, and even before it came, I always knew my life would be eclipsed and overwhelmed by someone other than me. Throughout my younger entirety, I always felt I had something to prove to others about being, something that made it difficult to dance around the continental division of my existence. And when my mother gave me up to be a family 1,000 miles away from home, alone and apart as an only child, in a place that felt like anti-Indian because I was the only Indian, I'd ask, Mother, where did we all go? Mother, I wasn't afraid to die until you said you were. The way one feels when someone's world closest to you crumbles, and so yours does too. The sight of seeing a marble Madonna crumble, scared, alone, But you weren't Catholic, you weren't Mormon, you were spiritual and a believer in God. God, the same God Cheyenne people believed in, one single God, the Creator, Maheo. Did you know I was raised Baptist? And while I have thought about renouncing all of their beliefs for the sake of resisting the 20th century image of the good, obedient Indian, I fear death too much. An Indian Baptist. I am the pilgrim and the Indian at the Thanksgiving table, and whose fault is that? But then who's to find fault in anything? I was born and only from you. And still, I feel my beliefs deceive me when I wonder whether an Indian should hold a biblical sword that has taken so much from us. I see our past hope wilt these fair cigarettes in my mouth, but to me it's all tobacco. I smoke tobacco when I think of you. Am I a future hope disappearing? A manifestation of the Baptist Indians' final form who changed their name and cut their hair? I was born, but not just from you, but from the Spirit who rose from the dead. Do you see him? Where are you? My beliefs have kept me from this fear, and yet. Mother, I am picking up speed and the ice is getting thicker. I'm on my way to see you. I'm coming to see you. I haven't been home in a couple years, but I'm driving the miles back home. The reservation always feels extraterrestrial, like the International Space Station, a condensed bubble of sky, clouds, sun, and moon, always surprised they are the same ones that rise above you. I look at the bare map on the bare road, which makes a two-dimensional map seem even flatter, and I pass familiar road signs. I see the Catholic Church, the nicest building in town, and I see the river. I'm looking at the river and remembering a story you told me about my sister. You said she once got so drunk during a party she fell into the river and forgot how to swim, and then someone pulled her out. My brother says it was you, but you said it was him, but my sister doesn't remember, but she cried when she made it to land. I always remember you telling me that the river was poisoned by the neighboring coal mines. You said that the fish in the river were sick, and so was the river. I remember meeting a cousin for the first time one summer when I visited home from college who told me about the center of the universe. He was so happy to have finally met me because I was your daughter. He thought the world of you, and so he thought the same of me. He called himself a river rat, and the next summer he drowned. It is hard to think that a river who has fed us and kept us alive has also taken so much from us, poison in the shadow of coal mountains. I pull into your yard and I knock on your door. You answer and you tell me to sit down. You have been sick for a little bit of a long time, and I know that. Now your sickness is so loud, it asks if I've ever thought of where I want to be buried. And I say yes, wherever you are. This one's called New Mass. Apart, does grass flower? I never did it right, it being the emerging rose-wearing green. I see the world around me, and she is gray-tinted on stacked bodies, and everywhere I see, there is a car going fast. A car drives around me, and we are close in air. If a mother I should become, I find myself saying, daughter, if I fall, let me. My God has many lovers, and when I got an envelope reading official U.S. government mail from the Department of the Interior, I thought my citizenship got revoked for being Indian. But it was just the government saying, I now own 0.1478589 acres in Montana for my mother, along with the 0.577363 acres I have in Oklahoma for my father. And the letter says, I am the victor, I wear the crown. My God has many lovers who say this world is special and yours is not. And the letterhead opens and eats itself, telling me Jesus is the answer of peace. Bodies buried in straight lines, inches from each other. He says it's there, there. He points toward another golfer 50 yards away who's putting near a cart. How do you know, I think to ask, but I already know the answer. I'm so far past myself and out of place, an Indian at a country club, that no map could help me find myself in the middle of a South Dakota golf course. On the north side of a cedar fence, I walk closer to a sign that reads, absolutely no play from cemetery. I walk further into the cemetery and find a plaque on concrete. Names of Indians buried in Hiawatha Asylum Cemetery. Longtime out woman, Edith Standing Bear, Asla Chi, Inipa, Baby Ruth Inipa, Blue Sky, Jane Birch, Ruth Chief on Top, Cecil Comes at Night, Maud Magpie, Sits in It, Baby Caldwell, Red Crow, James Black Eye, James Crow Lightning, Red Cloud, John Woodruff, Fred takes up. Jacob Hayes, Toby. Aloysius Moore, Roy Wolf, Two Teeth, Jack Root, Thomas Chasing Bear, Josephine Big Name, James Two Crows, Andrew Dancer, John Colafire, Ira Gersto, Guy Croneck, John Big. I read your name, grandmother, mother. Is this the end? Thank you.
Thank you so much, my close friend. That was so beautiful. Thank you all again for coming. Apologies for the overflowing church noise. Please pick up both Michaela and MS, and Farnoosh's books at the table, and please come back to the Poetry Project sometime soon. Thank you all.